Hello and good morning. Welcome to Brunch Groups. We're so glad that you could make it. I'm going to take a moment and just thank all of our awesome hosts. We can't do this without you. We love having great, safe spaces where we can come together and have a meal and also just dialogue around God's Word. So it means so much that the hosts would do that. So I just want to thank them. Also, I'd like to take a moment and invite you. Next Sunday is our color Sunday. So we're wearing our team colors next Sunday. It's always fun to get to celebrate the kickoff of fall. And then also following that, the next 2 weeks, on September 7th and September 14th, we're doing something really important. We're going to talk about the vision for the church for the next year. Now, this is a really exciting time for us because we've been praying, we've been asking God, who are we as a church and what are we developing into? And so we've been praying into this vision, and you are so important. We are not going to sit there and tell you this is where we're going and get ready, but instead we're going to say, this is who we are, and we're going to dialogue around all the gifts that we have and all the strengths that we have and who you are and how the Lord wants to use who you are and what you're doing right now and the plans that he has for you to extend his kingdom. So it's always an exciting time to get to talk about that, to get to take an inventory and evaluate who we are and where we're going. So I am asking that for those 2 weeks that you be present. I'm asking that on September 7th and September 14th, you make it if at all possible. I know it's also a really busy season right now, and we're kicking off wedding season as well. But I'm asking, if you can make it, please do. And if not, I'm asking then that you take some time that week and watch the sermon, because this is so important. It's we're going to get feedback from you. We're going to be talking about a lot of direction. And so it's really great if we're all on the same page. So I'm going to ask you for those weeks to be present. And so now we'll talk a little bit about brunch groups. So a couple of weeks ago, I had one of the hosts, Taylor Flick. She came and ministered to the youth group, and she did a really great teaching on Jonah and the whale. And I have heard this story before, and I've taught it. And as she was teaching it, something stood out to me, a new revelation about what the Lord did. And so we know from the story of Jonah, we know that the Lord said, go and preach to Nineveh. And he said, absolutely not, and got into all sorts of calamity. And in the end, he decided, finally, I will do this. Now, I don't know where you stand with preaching and public speaking, but he knew he was in direct obedience and was not going to do it. He absolutely wasn't going to. We don't know if it was just fear, if he was just pure rebellion, but he would not do it. And I know for many of us that could be a scary thing. I know public speaking is a terror to a lot of people. But in the story, Jonah, of course, after the whale, he goes and does it. Now, here was something, kind of the revelation, something profound that stood out to me. He had ran, and finally when he got there, he goes and he preaches to them. And in his preaching, he says 8 words. He says quite possibly the shortest sermon ever preached. I know on a Sunday morning, if you came in and I said 8 words, it would not be a very long day. You might be happy about it, but it would not be a long day. And I know the kids probably wouldn't be able to finish their crafts in 8 words. But in these 8 words that he says, it says Nineveh believed. And then in the next verse, it says they fully repented, that they understood they were outside of God's will, from 8 words. And it made me start thinking about who we are as a people, and with this hope that we carry and this faith that we have. I think a lot of times we have made our faith and sharing our faith and evangelism and witnessing, we've made it so complicated. But we see from the story of Jonah that sometimes 8 words hits the right person in the right way, and they're able to receive it and then change. And it got me thinking about this verse. And I say this one a lot, I quote it a lot, and I love it. It's from Revelation chapter 12. And in Revelation chapter 12, we are getting a window into the courtroom of God. We have Satan present. He's there accusing us day and night. And in verse 11, though, it says that they overcame him, that being the accuser, Satan, because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. And they did not love their life even when faced with death. And talking about in the end, there'll be a group of believers and they're going to overcome Satan because of the power of the cross, which we all believe is so powerful. But also it says there's something that combines with that power. It says the word of their testimony. Well, like I said, we know they're in a courtroom. And when you go into a courtroom, if you're ever called in as a witness, you give your testimony. And your testimony is something so unique. I know in Christianity, we kind of have a buzzwords when we say someone's going to give their testimony. But in the courtroom, when you give your testimony, it's important that you understand what you do. When you come in, you don't have to make up facts. You don't have to act like a specialist. You don't have to have numbers and exact figures. Instead, what you do is you tell your side of the story. And I love this about our faith because I think we've sometimes made sharing our faith and being in this faith and trying to defend our faith so complicated. Here it says that in the end, we're going to overcome Satan because of the cross and because of the words that we have from our side of the story. Now, I think this is important because every person in your brunch group today has a unique story. They also have a unique audience. They have a family that is unique. They have certain giftings and character and integrity and abilities. And all of us have a testimony. We have this eyewitness account of what Jesus has done for us. And essentially what I think the Bible is saying here is that if we're able to take our side of the story, what we've witnessed, now you may have been in faith decades, it may be 20 minutes, but you still have a story. And we see in the Gospels, there was a man born blind, and he gets healed by Jesus, completely healed. And the Pharisees are indignant, and they don't understand it, and they call him in. And he's like, listen, this is my testimony of what happened. And they don't believe it, and they don't want anything to do with it. So they call his parents in, and they're like, hey, he's of age to tell his own story, his own testimony. Ask him. We don't really know. We weren't there. And they call the man back again. And he says, here's what I know. Because they're asking, was he the Messiah? How did he do this? And it's like, listen, I don't know all of that. I can't defend things that I don't know. I can only give you my testimony of what occurred. And here's my testimony. I'll say it again. I was blind. Now I can see. And they had to wrestle with who Jesus was and why he did it. And they had to put into terms in their own heart and actions. Wait a second, what does this mean? And I love this story because it shows us again, there's something unique in what Jesus has done for us, what he's spoken to us, how he's changed our families. And when we are able to hit the right audience and tell our side of the story, things happen. Well, I'm going to pull from my last verse. I'm going to have the leaders reread this one in a moment. It's from 1 Peter 4, verse 15. But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make a defense for everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and reverence. And your translation might say something different, but essentially what it's saying there is you've got to be ready to give a testimony of why you have the hope that you have. You've got to be ready to explain to a person who's completely hopeless, who's been watching you, who's been looking into your life, who's been observing you with your spouse and your kids, and they've been observing from a place of hopelessness, from brokenness. They've been watching you from a place of comparison. And then they get to a place in their heart where they come to you and say, you have something I don't have. You have a hope. You have so much positivity, so much optimism. The way that you talk and handle and carry yourself is so different from how I feel. Why? 2 Peter says, you've got to be ready to just give some words, to give some connecting thoughts on this is who I was. I found Christ. He radically changed me. This is who I am now. I believe this is the next wave of evangelism of what we're going to see. We are seeing hopelessness at a rate that we've never seen before. Well, when you're hopeless, you're looking for a way out. You're trying to tread water and just catch your breath. And when you're doing that, you're also looking around you. And what happens is sometimes you see someone who's got the answers, and what do? You run to them and say, what's the answer? I wanted to share that this morning because I believe hope is the next wave of revival. I believe people are going to be looking into you and what you're doing and what you're saying. And they're going to be coming to you and they're going to be asking, why? How can you have hope in such a time as this? And so I wanted us to dialogue today around that and talk a little bit about why is it that we have the hope that we have, and how can we communicate that to a world that's dying, and to coworkers that are desperate, and into family members that were maybe prodigals and went away and now they're coming back saying, okay, I've got to radically change my life. How do I do that? So let's take a few minutes. We're going to reread these scriptures, and I want you guys just to discuss this idea of hope in a hopeless time. So hope that you guys had a great meal. Stick around for a while. I know sometimes these questions don't feel like you have to answer them. Sometimes it takes a moment, and then all of a sudden things are firing off. So just sit back, enjoy, process what's going on, and think about this idea. And so I will see you guys next week for Color Sunday. Thank you so much.